It may go down as one of the most dominating performances in winter sports history. He's Germany's Christoph Langen, and because of the tremendous depth of his country's bobsleigh program, Langen didn't even qualify for the 1992 or 1994 Olympics. But this season, Langen is on a crusade. He's won 8 out of 12 World Cup races, including 6 in a row. Last weekend here in Calgary, Langen and Germany blew away the field in winning his 3rd straight two-man World Championship. And now he's in strong position to win the 4-man event and become bobsledding's first World Championship double gold medalist since the legendary Gustav Vader of Switzerland did it in 1990. Last night at Canada Olympic Park, it was the first 2 heats of the 4-man event. Business as usual for Langen. A new start record and a new track record, all of it while nursing a bad cold and a leg injury. Switzerland's Marcel Rohner, sliding in the coveted #1 start position, ended up in 2nd place, while the legendary Wolfgang Pape was in 3rd. Big things were expected by Canadian driver Pierre Lueders, the 1995 World Cup champion, driving on his own track, had problems as his sled's push bar remained up throughout his first run. He fell way back in the pack. However, still in contention is Great Britain's Mark Tout. He's in 4th place, and after the first day of competition, he echoed the sentiments of all of the drivers, thankful that there's another day of sliding.
Obviously disappointed losing that spot from the second run, but I thought the drive in the second one was better than the first one. Made a couple of mistakes in the first one, but 4th place, 2 more runs tomorrow.
Und wir werden morgen sehen, morgen haben wir vielleicht die bessere.
Tomorrow I have a better start position. I think I can finish in the medals. Heat 3 earlier tonight, Lueders was first off, continuing to have trouble negotiating his own track. But talk about trouble, this is what happened to Great Britain #2 sled, as crewman Jamie Quarry never made it into the sled. As for the front runners, things remained status quo, perhaps setting the stage for a scenario which was thought to be unheard of in Canada, a Germany 1-2-3 sweep. From Canada Olympic Park in Calgary, welcome to the 1996 Corel World Bobsleigh Championships, the 4-man competition. The 4th and final run is getting set to get started here as the athletes are getting their equipment ready. Standings after the first 3 runs, Langen in the driver's seat literally, better than a half second over Swiss 1, and it will take a lot of work to catch Christoph Langen. That is something his teammate Wolfgang Pape did during the season. Pape won the 4-man standings, but in the overall combined 2- and 4-man World Cup standings, Langen was the clear Corel World Cup winner. Our first competitors here in the 4th and final heat, Jamaica won. And you can only wonder what Dudley Stokes thinks about every time he takes to the start of this Calgary track. This was his first ever competition, the 1988 Winter Olympics. The crash provided a bit of a scare, quite a bit of drama, but believe it or not, great things have emerged from what would have been otherwise a crisis. Dudley Stokes, of course, was the motivation for the movie Cool Runnings. And as you see right here, the pictures are proof of the fact that Dudley and the Jamaicans are still going and going strong in the sport of bobsleigh. Stokes is joined in his crew by Winston Watt, Wayne Thomas, and Ricky McIntosh. And it really hasn't even been a case of Stokes trying to talk some of his countrymen into competing. This 4-man team has been together now for 3 or 4 years and had a top 15 finish at the 1994 Winter Olympic Games. Bump there. As you can see, it's not the Jamaican sled. If that sled has a familiar look to it, it is the #3 Canada sled, which Dudley and the Jamaicans have borrowed for this competition, as they've been having trouble with their sled. Ooh, a big problem right there, as you saw the runners lift from the top of the track, all the way off of the track there for Dudley Stokes. It hasn't been a full year of riding on the Corel World Cup Series. In fact, we have not seen Dudley and the Jamaicans until these World Championships. They've been taking part instead in a North American circuit, a circuit that involves the Canadian and the United States and, of course, other Western Hemisphere programs. Well, this is curve 9. That gives sliders a lot of trouble, and you can see the bump on the exit there. Some of the better pilots won't have that problem there, and Certainly you'll see very few to have this problem down at the bottom of the track where the front right runner literally was lifted off the ice. And worse things could have emerged. It was actually not a bad recovery for Dudley Stokes. Jamaica won through and down with a time of 3 minutes, 43.16 seconds for Dudley Stokes and crew. Conditions are perfect tonight. Very cold, but it should mean some fast sliding. Snow flurries and that track temperature, check that out, minus 11 degrees. There's a look at the track specs. Any trip down a track is an exciting one, and we have Chris Laurie to take us on our tour.
I'm going to take you down the Calgary track, and this is how it goes. After I've pushed, the first thing I concentrate on is being on the left going into corner 1. Very important. If you go in too late, it'll kill your speed from the start. Straight down the middle into corner 2. Cut off the exit into corner 3. Cut out the exit straight down into corner 4. Staying low, concentrating on the entrance of corner 4. Cut through the first pressure, and a nice rhythm through corner 4, corner 5, a nice rhythm because it's very steep, and that's where you really start picking up speed. Corner 6, let it get high, parallel into 7, wait for the exit, wait, down out of 7, parallel into corner 8. You're really picking up speed now, about 125, off the wall into Kreisel, watching for the exit, cut the exit, straight down the middle into corner 10, corner 11, corner 12 is a little bit tricky, cut through the pressure, corner 13, high, nice and easy, through the first pressure, let it float through the finish corner, and cut out through the finish line. I hope you enjoyed the ride. It's going to take 4 perfect runs to win the World Championship here in Calgary.
And already on course, this is Switzerland sled number 2, the driver Reto Goci, his crew, Guido Acklin, Beat Seitz, and Domenica Semeraro. They were in 8th place entering this 4th and final run. A nice clean exit. It has been an interesting year for Goci and the Swiss crew. This is the silver medalist from the 1994 Winter Olympics in Lillehammer, but he failed to win a World Cup medal this season until the final race. That was on his home track in San Moritz. He did, however, come here to Calgary and win the bronze medal in the 2-man World Championships across the finish line. By nearly a half second, Switzerland number 2, Reto Goci, have moved into the lead with a time of 3:40.10. The 1996 Corel World Bobsleigh Championships are being brought to you by Corel and its newest product, Corel WordPerfect.
Brought to you by the world leader in Windows graphics software, Corel Print House is the fast and easy way for everyone to create great-looking greeting cards, stationery, banners, and more. Work with professionally designed samples or start your own creations from scratch. With Corel Print House, it's only a few easy steps to any printing project. Get creative. Get Corel Print House, the easy all-in-one graphics powerhouse exclusively for Microsoft Windows 95.
In 7th place entering this 4th and final heat of competition, this is Austria sled number 1. Hubert Schosser, Gerd Habermuller, Irvin Arnold, and Martin Schutzenauer trying to better a 5.21 start time recorded by the Swiss. They don't do it. 5.26, 500ths of a second off the pace. Great look at the 3 men behind Hubert Schosser. As you see, all crew members try the best they can to tuck their heads deep down inside that sled to provide and prevent any form of aerodynamic drag. Latest split time. The split time so important, the indication on how these sleds are doing. 34.92, the next split, which Schosser will be trying to better. And he is off the pace by 1/10 of a second. He only has a 300ths of a second lead over the Swiss sled, which just came down in 1st place. Hubert Schosser of Austria, in each of the past 2 World Championship 4-man competitions, he's won a silver medal. Calgary could prove to be a disappointment. He should end up in 1st or 2nd place here, but he will fall back. The finish time, 2nd place, 2100ths of a second off the pace, 340.31. So a disappointing 1996 Worlds for the Austrian. Problems began right here, the exit at 9, a late bump. Certainly a driving error there, although we could not ascertain what happened in the curve. Recovers well in Kreisel. You can see the sled is low. However, the mistake was made early. The time cost him at the finish. And Austria won, 340.31, fall behind the Swiss. Well, at the outset of these World Championships, a lot of folks figured that one man to watch out for was the veteran, Chris Laurie of Canada. Chris Laurie now is set to go at the top with his team of Ben Hindle, Matt Hindle, and Sheridan Baptiste. Laurie was the first driver to ever take a run on this track. That was back in 1986. Now 12 years later, he was gunning for a world championship and is on course here in the 4th heat, but he is in 6th place, and it will not be a medal kind of night for Chris Laurie. He will be lucky to move up a place or two to 5th or 4th. It's been a great year nonetheless for the Canadian pilot. He ended up in 3rd place in the overall Corel World Cup standings. And so many people thought great things were going to happen in Calgary. Great shot at the speed right there. And you'll be seeing the speed clock momentarily in the upper right side of your screen. That is a good indication to follow as these front-running sleds come down. 125.9 kilometers per hour. You'll see even greater speeds from the top 3 or 4. Clean exit by Laurie, who knows this track so well. He's 1100ths of a second off the pace, trying to at least hold on to a 6th place and have the best run so far in the 4th and final heat. The Canadians across the finish line, 55.35. They're in a dead heat. The 0.00 marks the indication that the Canadians are currently tied with the Swiss sled number 2 for 1st place. Chris Laurie has been driving for this Canadian program for 12 years now. And it is only over the last couple of years that his starts have improved. In fact, this year on the World Cup Tour, there were a couple of events where he had better starts than his teammate Pierre Lueders. And he certainly had a finer night tonight here at the 4-man World Championships. Lueders is buried somewhere down in around 12th or 13th place. The clean driving by Chris Laurie, just not enough, however. He's currently in a tie for the lead, hoping for a top 6 finish, 340.10. Well, these great World Championships and certainly our entire season of coverage of international television coverage of the Corel Bobsled Tour has come courtesy of the Corel Corporation. They are certainly one of the biggest things to come along to this sport in quite some time. The folks at Corel, aside from their involvement in professional tennis, got involved with bobsledding because it mirrors their image. The fastest in graphics and the fastest sport on ice. They put out a media guide and a CD-ROM of the sport of bobsleigh, and brand new Corel is now on the World Wide Web. The opportunity for bobsled fans to check up on just what's going on in the tour. They can learn all about popular athletes. Just by calling up the address at the bottom of your screen, you can find out a bit on the many different tracks that these sliders take part on, a bit on the history and the culture and some of the great stories surrounding it. And of course, everything you'd like to know about these World Championships being held in Calgary. Well, next up at the top of the track, this is certainly one of the most popular drivers, not just this year, but in the history of this sport, Prince Albert Grimaldi. His crew consisting of Alain Mandoka, Michel Vatricon, and Sebastian Gattuso from the multicultural Principality of Monaco. In fact, Albert himself, university educated in the United States. True sportsman, a true athlete. 5.57 their start time. Don't figure for this sled to be competitive, but I can tell you that over the course of his career, Albert has not just been a serious athlete, but his times and his placings have improved. By the way, the rumor going around Calgary, and it has been circulating all season long, is that these championships could very well mark the end of the bobsleigh career for Prince Albert. He's been a great tribute to the sport, has represented the sport of bobsleigh tremendously in his role with the International Olympic Committee. Let's see how Albert handles his exit of Kreisel. Very nice, little bump, little tap. So certainly the bobsleigh world will miss him. And I tell you, from my talks with the Prince, he will miss the sport of bobsleigh. He has enjoyed the camaraderie. He has enjoyed the ability to compete and try to be the best he has. And quite frankly, has enjoyed the fact that it sometimes gets him away from his somewhat high-pressure duties as Prince of Monaco. The exit out of 9, a good piece of driving for Albert. Although not the great speeds were working, his problems came out of Kreisel, but it was a nice entrance and good driving in this portion of the course. Monaco 1 has completed its competition, and Prince Albert perhaps has completed his decade in the sport of bobsleigh.
10 years.
What a great sport. I love it.
Is that your, pretty good result, huh? Best result in a World Championships?
Yeah, no, we're real happy. Team worked well. I mean, obviously we're expecting. But better starts, but I think the sled was great. We had some good runners, and I think I did okay.
Well, the emotion by Prince Albert is certainly emblematic of the thrill and the passion that all of these drivers get out of this sport of bobsleigh. Next up, in fifth place, entering this final run, Great Britain #1, Mark Tout, Dean Ward, Courtney Rumbold, and Lenny Paul. Tout mentioned to us if he gets a great start, he could make his way back into the medals here. Let's see what he does at 5.19. Well, it's the best start of this fourth and final heat. However, we have been seeing better starts from the top three sleds consistently throughout this competition. So Tout will need some perfect driving all the way down this track if he wants to move up a place or two. Best split time going so far. Tout, certainly one of the veterans on this tour, has been competing in this sport for well over a decade, has been driving since the 1988 Olympics right here in Calgary, and a perfect exit. 46.36, the split time to beat, and another nice exit, a rough one but no tapping. Presently, the Canadians and the Swiss are tied for first place, but Tout is 100th of a second off at that latest split. He has better speeds going. Here come the British around the finish curve. They skid their way, but they are in first place by 41/100ths of a second, 339.69 for Great Britain #1 and Mark Tout. This is a crew in his sled of all great track and field stars. They get the great starts, and Tout's driving certainly has continued to improve, and he says he will stay in this sport at least through the '98 Olympics in Nagano. You can see it was a bit of a high exit, but he recovered well and was clean for the rest of the run down. Total time for the four heats, 3 minutes, 39.69 seconds. All the British can do now is wait at the bottom and see what happens with the remaining four sleds in this competition. Well, the Germans have been the story in the sport of bobsleigh, certainly this year, if not over the past couple of decades, but their domination has been incredible. And that is reflected in this man right here, Dirk Wiese. Wiese is Germany 3 pilot. His crew is Christoph Barsch, Michael Lemure, and Wolfgang Haupt. But Wiese, they say, could be probably the finest pilot in virtually every other nation. Start time 5.19. That's the time to beat Mark Tout. He does it by 300ths of a second. Wiese was the winner of the World Cup race here in Calgary last year. Competed in just 2 events this season on the Corel World Cup Series, but did so winning in the medals. There's Mark Tout down at the bottom watching. Will he move ahead?
If you look at him in the straights here, he's quite stable. His 800's up now. He's just got to keep driving the same lines, and he's got it.
Mark Tout resigning himself to the fact perhaps that Wiese is going to move ahead of him, and Tout will remain at least in 5th place. Wiese looks like he will be doing just that. Great splits, great speed. This split time he is now 1600ths ahead of Mark Tout. So around the finish curve, Dirk Wiese, still hoping to become an Olympian for the first time ever. Perhaps one of the 5 best pilots in the world. In first place right now, 339.39. So Mark Tout of Great Britain sees that he has lost his opportunity to move up. Germany, sled #3, the current leaders. And you see here the heads of the bobsledders. The G-forces at work here when the speeds are upwards of 120 kilometers per hour are just incredible. Celebration for Germany 3. They're the current leaders, and all that remains in question now is whether the Germans will sweep the medals. The current standings up to the moment. Germany 3 leading by 0.3 of a second ahead of the British. The Canadians and Swiss tied for 3rd, and Austria currently in 4th place. Well, these are the World Championships taking place in Calgary, but all athletes in all sports are now setting their sights ahead just 2 years down the road to the 1998 Winter Olympics to be held in Nagano, Japan. The bobsleigh luge facility in construction last summer is now just about complete. The track will certainly upgrade the Japanese bobsleigh program and is said to be a fun and fast one.
コース本体の建設が、大体終わりまして2月の末にテストランを迎える運びになりました。
The construction of the track has been completed. いつでしたっけ？2月の末。This February, and we will have the first test run next month.
So the first test run coming next month, but the Olympics coming in 2 years from Nagano, Japan.
In our world, engineering and imagination know no boundaries. Introducing Corel Draw 6, the complete 32-bit graphics suite exclusively for Microsoft Windows 95. Only Corel Draw 6 delivers 5 graphics applications, 8 utilities, 25,000 clip art images in symbols, 1,000 photos, 1,000 fonts, plus over 750 3D models. Get acquainted with the leader. The time is now.
The 1996 Corel World Bobsleigh Championships are being brought to you by Corel, the fastest in graphics, official sponsor of the Corel World Cup Bobsleigh Series. We're down to our final 3 sleds here, and Germany #1 set to go. The driver, Wolfgang Hoppe, his crew, Torsten Voss, Sven Petter, and Karsten Ambach. Wolfgang Hoppe, perhaps the greatest driver in the history of bobsleigh. Trying to better a 5.16. The 38-year-old pilot and crew load in. They do it. 5.13. Hoppe has won medals in each of the past 4 Olympic Games. Golds in Sarajevo in 1984. Silver, 2 of them here in Calgary in 1988. He's also added silver and bronzes in each of the past 2 Olympic Games. Most decorated athlete in the history of the sport, going for his 39th major medal in his career. 34.78 the split time. They are trying to better teammate Dirk Wiese. They're 500s ahead right now. Great speeds working for Wolfgang Hoppe, who rarely, if ever, makes a driving mistake. Making his way down towards the finish now. 400ths of a second off the pace. The Germans are in first place at the bottom. Will they be 1-2? Yes, by 700ths of a second. Wolfgang Hoppe has guaranteed himself at least a bronze medal and another major medal in a major competition. Hands up in celebration. After all these years and all these medals, it's still exciting for Wolfgang Hoppe. We'll talk about exciting. This is certainly the biggest moment in the career of this driver, Marcel Rohner, and his team of Switzerland won. Markus Wasser, Thomas Schreiber, and Roland Kahn. Second place entering this final run. The Germans have put the pressure on. They would like to stay in the medals. 700ths of a second, though, off the pace here at the start. Bit of a bump, it would appear, in curve 2 as well. Will Rohner buckle under this pressure? This is an emerging Swiss driver, waiting in the wings while the great Gustav Bader was winning gold medals at the Olympics and Reto Goci was coming up in the program. Now Rohner is set to shine. Hoppe's in the finish area, watching, seeing if he will stay in first place or whether Rohner will move ahead. Marcel Rohner has had some bright moments this year. Great speed working, 126.8 the clocking kilometers per hour, and a nice exit. He could very well move into first place, or at least second, and win his first ever World Championship medal. 100th of a second now ahead of Wolfgang Hoppe's split. Now around the finish curve. 54.93. So Hoppe knows he's fallen behind, and Marcel Rohner and the Swiss know they have won at least a silver medal at the World Championships. A big, big moment for that crew and sled. Well, their start was a bit deficient, but the Swiss do one thing, and they load into a sled perfectly. And they train on that track at San Moritz and work on this aspect of the sport year-round, and that was clockwork. And Rohner certainly drove himself a nice run, recovering from that bit of a slower start time, made no mistakes on the way down, and has earned himself at least a silver medal. 339.06 for Switzerland sled #1, and this competition in the 1996 Husky World Championships have boiled down to this. The final sled. Christoph Lange, Marcus Zimmermann, Sven Rohr, and Olaf Hampel. First place, and I mean by a wide margin. Over a half a second was their lead, and look at that start time, 5.10. For the 4th time in as many runs here in the championships, the Germans have had the best start time. And that is no mystery, folks. That's the reason why this man, Christoph Lange, has won so many events this season. Great athletes and a great driver. Perhaps the most dominating performance in the history of this sport. 34.73 the split time, but it's all academic at this point. You are looking at a magical pilot, 126.2, and bobsled history will be rewritten here as Christoph Langen is set to join the small list of those drivers who have won both the two-man and four-man championships in the same year. And as he crosses the finish line, the two-time European champion is now a two-time world champion here in 1996. 3 minutes, 38.39 seconds. Germany, #1, has won the world championship. Well, Christoph Langen and company is just a group of tremendous athletes. Perfect cohesion, perfect unison. Langen loading in at the last possible moment. The push bars are down, and they have blown away the competition at the start. So the final standings here at the 1996 Carell World Championships of four-man bobsleigh. Germany 2 by 0.67 over the Swiss. In fact, the Germans finish 1-3-4, and Christoph Langen is delighted about his performance at the finish. No, it's not easy for me, but it's because of my teammates too. They have been a big part of all of my successes. So Christoph Langen, the two-time world champion here in 1996. And next time we join you, we'll be bringing you the Skeleton World Championships. Until then, congratulations to Germany #2, Christoph Langen, the '96 world champion.